This podcast is brought to you by Kiwi Design, the leader in metaquest and VR accessories. And now you can deck out your device while supporting the podcast. The metaquest 2 is a great headset, but do you ever feel things could be a bit more comfortable? Well, we have the solution for you. With lens protectors, controller grips, face covers, head straps, link cables, headset stands, and more, including my two personal favorites, the top version controller grips with added weight and an extended handle, and the Kiwi upgraded Elite strap. Let's be real, we've all whacked our controller. Don't be the guy messaging Oculus support for your own mistake or waiting weeks for an out-of-stock controller. Visit the link in our show notes to prepare yourself today. After visiting the link in our show notes, make sure to use the promo code Ruff Talk VR at checkout, all one word, to take full advantage of your savings. And make sure to click the link in our show notes so the podcast gets credit and you help support us. Remember, whatever you need, Kiwi has you covered. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. Today we're joined with Anthony, the developer of the exciting and addictive new, App Lab game.
Addictive's an understatement.
Yeah. It's got that same feel of Walkabout, of like that it factor. We had talked about it on a review of it as well, but we're talking about Bocce Time. So, Anthony, do you mind to introduce yourself a little bit more to our listeners and also tell them about your game in case they never played it or listened to our review?
Sure. My name's Anthony. Like you said, I'm the developer of Bocce Time, solo developer. And Bocce Time is a new VR bocce game, which if not many people are familiar with bocce, it goes by a lot of names. It's kind of like bowls, petanque, very similar to lawn bowling is another variation of it. Pretty much you throw out a ball and then you take turns throwing out more balls to see who can get closest to it. It's super simple, but there's a huge skill ceiling and it's just a lot of fun and just, great competition with your buddies.
Yeah, no, bocce was the first thing we said. It's something that everybody's played, but how often have you really played it? It's kind of like deep in your memory somewhere. And man,
yeah, I remember saying on the podcast, I couldn't believe how easy it is to learn to play, but the skill level to be super good at it that's where anybody can throw the ball. But
yeah, I mean, I had said all of us have played bocce, but that's not true. There's some people who've never played bocce. So do you mind actually explain for our listeners, what the gameplay concept is as well, just in case they've never played?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's extremely simple. You start the game off by throwing out, well, there are courts that you play on. Traditionally, there's just a single standard court. It's effectively just a long box. And you stand at one end of it. You have to throw out a small ball called a pallino or a jack, depending on the variation of the game you're playing. And it has to just go a minimum distance past a minimum throw line is the way it works in the game. And once it's out there, then two teams take turns throwing out their balls and try to get as close as possible to that pallino or jack. And the fun of it comes in where it's completely dynamic. So it doesn't matter where it landed necessarily, because that pallino could get pushed around by your balls. You can land your own close to it, and then your friends can knock yours out of the way or push the pallino, and then everything can change in an instant. Every ball changes up the outcome of the match. Potentially, you could go from being ahead by 3 to your opponent getting 4 points just by one ball getting thrown.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of...
I smiled when I heard that because that happens to me occasionally.
Yeah, it happened to us last night playing with one of our Discord members who won your first, I believe your first community tournament, talking about shoes. We were giving him a decently competitive 3-3, and then he came in four balls, gets the win.
Ends it in one ball.
Yeah.
Gets 4 points.
This game has a couple different settings for total points, 7, 11, a couple other. By default, it's on 7, so we forgot to change it, and then he just comes in and, steals the win like that.
Schools us both.
But what's cool about this game, you had referenced standardly, kind of a traditional straight court, but this one has a couple different ones. There's, your standard bocce court is literally just like a straight, box area, rectangle area. You have a backyard playing area.
I love that one.
Yeah, that's the most because that's how you do it in your backyard in real life.
Yeah, the girls in the background, and
which the backyard environments environment items are a big factor in how you're going to roll the ball and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also a ramp one where you rolled up a ramp and there's all these different little platforms for it to land on. There's like a little, I guess, T-shaped maze looking one. That one's probably my favorite. It's got like real walkabout vibes in that one.
Oh, that one's definitely a community favorite. I think that might be the one I've put the most time into, at least recently. During testing, I think I spent most of my time on that that picnic area court you were talking about with the grills and the trash cans and stuff. I've spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to throw a ball into that trash can next to the grill. Got it a few times, but recently it's been that T court, that angle court you're talking about. That's the go-to.
And speaking of trash cans, there's another one that's like 4 or 5 trash cans. I guess it's a smaller court.
Yeah, the barrel court.
The first time we did that one, we spent 20 to 30 minutes just trying to throw the pallino, which is a great name for a little starting object. That's just fun to say, pallino. But we spent like 30 minutes just trying to chuck it into the trash can thing. Just so childish, you know?
Yeah, but it's a good strategy because if you can use it, like Anthony throws it into the friggin' trash can 100 feet away or 30 feet away, whatever it is.
Yeah, but
you're pretty much doomed after that.
And this is a game
it's really hard.
That really shines with like, the social aspect and the competitive aspect. It's like somebody rolls that ball tight to the pallino. You see like the radius of, where you can land inside to be, closer to them technically. If they roll that thing tight to the ball, your only chance to get it is to knock them out of the way. So,
and even that doesn't always work because Shoes put me into the corner last night, and I would have had to have just, I don't even know, because he had all his balls around the pallino in the corner.
Yeah.
So the strategy of this is, so I got to ask though, like, what made you say, like, I'm going to do Bocce VR? It seems almost random, but genius at the same time because nobody else has done it. So
that's basically it. It was, I've been making VR games for a little over 4 years now. And the last game I made was called Vengeful Rights. It was this RPG, kind of like a Zelda style game.
Yeah.
And it was just this huge, overwhelming project. Like I said, I worked on it for 3.5 years and I had a lot of fun with it, but it was a single player game. And as fun as it is, I don't feel like that's the best use of VR. I started playing some Walkabout with a couple buddies of mine, and you just get slammed by the simplicity of it, but how great of a social experience it is, especially in VR. It really feels like you're just hanging out with your friends in person, playing, in that game, some mini golf. And then I remembered there was a game, I don't know if either of you ever played it, back when the PlayStation 3 came out, there was a game called Sports Champions. It was basically their version of Wii Sports that you played with the PlayStation Move long before the PSVR was a thing. And they had a bocce game in that, which I had never even played bocce prior to that. And a few of my buddies and we started playing it and we just got hopelessly addicted. You wouldn't expect it because of how simple it is. You go, oh, this is probably good for a laugh. Maybe we'll play this once and never again. But we were just coming back to it all the time. Like the amount of skill that's involved in it is so staggeringly high when you can start getting your precision dialed in to the point where, like you said, you can touch the pallino. Like when you can do that consistently and you have friends who can do that consistently, it starts getting crazy. Like you start having to just really take chances, start doing trick shots and start incorporating spin. And it just never gets boring. And it's like when you can go from being up by 3 points to losing 4 points, like we were talking about, and you have that level of dynamism, it's just exciting. Despite how simple it is and how straightforward, it's just super exciting and funny whenever something like that happens.
Oh yeah, so and full disclosure, you kicked both our asses
with your left hand as a right hand. It's not like all right, you're left-handed.
So
and
just so everybody knows, we took the ultimate beating from the guy who made the freaking game.
Yeah, it's not really reasonable.
But it was fun. But it was fun.
Yeah, it's always fun.
So you can't. I love the social aspect is probably one of the biggest draws to me because every time we go in it, we're laughing,
and we're playing a lot longer than I thought
I
would.
And we're being competitive though. So how many games can you play competitively and like,
that's one of the as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No worries.
Please do.
Okay, I was saying that's one of the things that I think is so amazing about, like, I can't even take credit for how fun the game is, right? Because it's just bocce. Like, I didn't invent bocce. I just tried to make a faithful recreation of it in VR with a little bit of novelty to it with the various courts. But it's like, I think it's because it's such a skill-based game that you can't get mad when you're losing because you know either that person just did something amazing, basically, which you're so in awe of it, if they even pulled it off, that it's like you're excited with them, or they got insanely lucky, which is some ridiculous bounce or something that went in their favor. And either way, the events that happen to make you lose are almost always something that's impressive. So it's like you can't really be upset about it no matter how it goes. And then if you can get bragging rights out of it and talk trash on top of that, that's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, I find myself going, oh, like 10 times every time we
Yeah,
play.
My
it's
biggest problem
constant.
is I just want to play another round.
Well, that's the thing. When we saw this on the store, we had seen it starting to, people were talking about it. I see it pop up more and more. I'm like, bocce. How good can bocce be? But I was like, wait. Every time I've ever said this to myself, it ends up being one of my absolute favorites. So let's give this an honest shot. And it was, geez, I think like our whole headset battery went down.
Mm-hmm.
Just kept doing one more course, one different course.
Yep. And we went, I
Yep.
think we went back right from the traditional. We kind of stayed on that for a while, and then did the backyard, but then we did the ramp one.
Mm-hmm. Did
Then-
the T maze one.
T Maze one is, I don't know, it's weird. I actually love the traditional and the backyard more than the others, but I like the others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's
but
not
if I
that you-
have like, because there's so many, so it's like I can go, this is my favorite, my second favorite, third favorite.
Yeah, it's not that you dislike the others, but you seem to like that standard traditional route.
Yeah, I just want to get really good at it.
Whereas like that T course to me reminds me of
mini golf.
Yeah, it reminds me of a walkabout course.
But
like it's just so much can go wrong.
There's some serious strategy that you can use on that one that
Mm-hmm.
you definitely can't use in the others. Like you can really, I jammed you up.
Yeah.
Remember that? Like there's just no way.
Don't need to remind me.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I think the standard is the standard for a reason. Like it's just pure skill on that one, right? It's a really long court, so you have to have your power dialed in, and any variation in like your angle of attack, if it's off by a little bit because it's such a long distance, it's exacerbated. It goes further and further away. So it really separates, the truly skilled players from those maybe not so much. But the other court, the idea is that each court has a different way to play it, and some of them obviously incorporate multiple ways to play them, but they sort of reward different play styles, right? So like the standard court is really good for people who have that kind of precision and really good power control when they're rolling it. And then you have ones like the T court that you're talking about, where it's like that's more about getting the right bounce off the backboard, or maybe you can apply a little bit of spin and get it to travel a little bit further, or just angle it off of this, just knock other people's balls directly out of the way, or the precision shots, try to get it to land in those triangles in the corners, which is satisfying every time it happens if you get it.
No, this guy would try to lob
Yeah.
You wouldn't even try to ricochet him or you would just literally try to lob him into a spot.
And I actually had a lot of success because that one we played to, I think, 11. And I had I think I was beating you 9-0. I was having so much success with that strategy. And then you figured it out and you ended up beating me.
Yep.
I don't understand how, but.
But no, for a little while, though, the way you were just lobbing the thing. No, they give you so many different options and how you can play
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's just a ball. You're just throwing a ball. It's up to you how you do it.
The fact that you can apply spin to it is...
Well, that's actually a tip that you had given us while we were playing. So do you want to kind of go over that, Anthony? How you even turn spin on in the game? I think some people might even miss that,
Sure. Yeah, I have it disabled by default because a lot of people will accidentally do it, and it could end up, putting them off target from where they mean to be. Because there's the biggest challenge for a game like this is that throwing in VR typically is not super intuitive or very lifelike. Like I tried to get as close as I could, but there are certain things that there's no way for me to overcome, like finger roll, right, which is a huge part of throwing in real life. Like it's a huge part of precision, especially with overhand throws. So I do my best to make up for it with the math and the physics that I'm running there, but there is a bit of a learning curve to it. And you can apply spin by just sort of rotating your wrist as you release the ball. But depending on, just how coordinated you are, you might end up throwing it off to the side, or maybe you accidentally apply some backspin when you don't mean to, and then the ball doesn't go as far as you mean for it to, or it starts curving off. So it's disabled by default. I consider it more an advanced feature. But if you turn it on and you start putting some effort into it, because there's a bit of a learning curve to it, then you can get to a point where, like you were saying, oh, maybe the ball is blocking the pallino, so I really don't even have an angle on it. You can create one. You can decide to curve around the balls or potentially push your opponent's ball off to the side instead of having it stay perfectly in line with the pallino, that kind of thing. And backspin, I think, is maybe the most easy to apply and potentially the most strategic because you can use it to get places. For example, on that tee court, you could throw the ball and have it bank off that backboard. But if you apply some backspin to it, it'll come a little bit further off, which means that it's going to be much harder for people to roll it off those corners and get it to ricochet over there because it's not going to hit it along the wall. It's going to have to come off as well. So there's a deceptive amount of strategy for something so simple, but it's just a lot of fun, especially when you pull it off and then you act like, oh, of course, that's how that I meant to do that 100%.
No, I think that's a smart decision to have it off by default because I think some people might not know what's going on. But
Yeah, it's
for
definitely an advanced setting.
absolutely. But for anybody who wants that little bit of extra realism, I guess you could say, "Phew, you got it for them."
Yeah, and I'm for people who haven't played, you can also adjust the power that you throw. So if you don't have like the ability, let's just say you're super older, but you want to play bocce, you can because you can just adjust the power up. So
Yeah,
still
try
get
to
the
make
ball
it
down there.
accessible.
Or you have
Sure.
anger issues and you're whipping it way too hard. You need to
Yeah,
tone it down a little bit.
I just keep everything
Sure.
at default except for spin. Really, the
Yeah,
spin one intrigued me, like because that's a whole different skill level to the game. It's one thing to throw the ball a straight line; it's another to go, I think I'm going to hook it into the left.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest. I play with spin off because I'm not that good at it, and like you can see the limitations where it's like, in order to get the ball where I want to, let me move more to the left so that way I roll, kind of like diagonal. Whereas if you really had the spin down, pool,
Yeah,
you exactly as you said, just hook right around it. So game's got a huge not learning curve, but skill
So,
ceiling, huge
yeah.
skill ceiling.
easy to learn, hard to master. I
You
mean,
Yeah,
you have
very,
someone
very hard to master.
you have some unlockables with the different bocce balls right now. And I got to give a lot of props for this because this
I
might
know
be
where
one of
you're
my
going.
favorite aspects. You have probably the best bot name in any game. What is it? Body McBot Face?
Yeah, it's just the first thing that came to mind. What kind of a clever sort of pun name can I come up with for the bot? And then for some reason, Bodie McBoatface, if you're familiar with that story from back in the day, I think it was like 10 years ago. I want to say it was Denmark or somewhere. They were launching a public ferry and they put it up to the community to come up with the name for the boat. And they chose Bodie McBoatface. And I don't think they actually took it and put it on the side of the boat, but it became like a big internet story. And I just thought, oh, Body McBotface. Basically the same thing, swap a letter. And I just ran with it.
That's awesome. But like I said, you have some unlockables right now with the balls. It's some incentive to keep playing. I think a game like this, the replayability really shines in playing with friends. Go join your Discord community, go meet other people. But just for that percentage that likes a little bit more of the offline play, do you have anything in mind for future updates with more unlockables or more, I guess, at bot modes for lack of a better term?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm working on a couple of things right now. I'm working on a new park primarily that'll have more courts in it. And then also I want to put in, like we spoke about previously, character customization. Because as much as I love these jelly
Potato
bean
Man.
potato people, yeah,
Oh,
I
they're
feel
the
like people
best.
would prefer to have some customization there. So I'll probably add unlockables for that you can get, and there'll be more balls with the new court. And I'm thinking about maybe doing stuff like the trail that you see behind the ball when you throw it. Like maybe you can customize that a bit, maybe different colors or designs, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of opportunity to give people stuff to unlock there, I think.
Oh wow, something small like that I didn't even think of, but that would be there's a lot of potential in that.
Yeah, there's a lot you could do. Or
Oh
I don't know
man.
if either of you ever played it. There's a mini golf game, not a VR one, called Golf It, and it has cosmetics where you can put like hats on your ball. They always stay on top, like stupid stuff like that. You can put whatever you want in there, and make it interesting for people.
Yeah, I think that would really shine with the online play as well. You go play with a random, and he comes in and his ball has a top hat, a mustache, and sunglasses.
Yeah,
That's freaking
yeah, a
fun.
monocle. Yeah, for sure.
A little Monopoly, man.
uh,
Yeah,
so you,
I'm pretty impressed because I mean it's a tight product. It looks great. It's fun. So I mean, theoretically, you could just be like going to the beach, I guess. But I'm excited to hear there's going to be more.
yeah, I mean, you join his Discord, which we can plug that in just a moment. I mean, yes, we already have, but I mean, you're very active in there. Pretty much
Discord, you say?
yeah, anybody who responds with or asks a question, you're on top of it. And more importantly than that, you're really pushing the community aspect of. Right now, you're holding what is it, weekly tournaments? I think you guys have done like what 2 or 3 already. So, do you want to plug your
Yeah.
Discord a little bit? Tell our listeners, where they can find that and how to join the fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't have a like a specific link, like a deep dive VR Discord link or anything like that, but I imagine you guys will maybe put it in the description or something in the YouTube video when this goes up. But it's the deep dive Discord. You can find it on the Bocce Time store pages and Twitter as well, and which the Twitter is at Deep Dive VR. You can find the game on Steam and App Lab. And yeah, it's great. The community is really starting to take off. It's just a lot of really great people. We all have fun. There's looking for group channel in there, which is awesome because the quick match might not always be the best way to find it. You don't know if people are going to be online currently. It's still pretty small, but you jump in there and you ask people if they want to hop in. You got a pretty good shot that someone's going to be up for it. And yeah, we're doing these tournaments, thinking of maybe doing bigger like monthly tournaments and then sort of staggered weekly tournaments, start changing up the formula a little bit. But it's been great. I've been really enjoying it. And then putting videos of it up on YouTube and Twitter and whatnot, highlights, because there's always highlights. Like we were saying, that pretty much every match you play, something exciting is likely to happen, and then
Yeah,
makes easy highlights.
yeah. I mean, the game's got such a beautiful shell. I mean, the graphics for anybody who's never played it are very akin to they're like Unity graphics. They're blocky, but it works so good in VR. It's cute.
I don't even feel blocky though.
No,
Just like with to go back to like the whole finger rolling off the ball. The minute you said that, I was like, you know what? I'm not missing it though.
no. I've always thought. I
I
mean,
feel like I really have control of the ball.
a big thing that we had said on our review of this is how tight the physics are. It's like you roll that ball, you already know if you threw it too hard, too soft, if it's going to go to the right, to the left. I mean, you did a great job with the feel aspect of it. So,
Thanks.
I mean, you mentioned you've been developing games for 4 years, so this isn't like you just flipped open a laptop, went type type type, and oh my god, it works great. But what was it like? Working on the actual physics aspect of it. Did it take a lot of work, or was it?
Yeah, that I'm really curious about.
Did it kind of just come together really naturally?
Kind of both. I mean, it wasn't like anything crazy overwhelming. It was just time consuming. There's a lot of tinkering and tweaking and a little bit of experimentation, especially with the throwing, because I've done throwing in VR before, obviously making games like Vengeful Rights where you could throw like fireballs and just objects and stuff. But I never tried to make it like as responsive as possible. Like it was workable in those games because it wasn't a huge part of it. It didn't need to be the focus. But when you're making a game that's entirely based around effectively one mechanic, you want that to work as well as possible. So I really put in the time to try to make up for things like the lack of finger roll, like using certain physics and rotations to sort of uh, approximate what you're trying to do. And I think it works pretty well. Like you said, you can typically, as soon as you release the ball, you go, oh no, I shanked that. Like if it's wrong, and you'll know. As my mindset is, as long as you can take responsibility and you can go, I'm the one who messed that up, then you can't really complain, right? Like that means I've done my job. As long as the game's doing what you expect it to do. But there's a lot of tinkering and tweaking and changing values for things like various friction and bounces for the various materials like wood and dirt and rubber and grass and all that. So it's pretty much just trial and error to dial it in. You start off with an idea like, oh, this is probably. I think the dirt was the first one that I set up as like the base physics material, and then most things were sort of adjustments from that. I'm like, okay, the grass should have a little less friction, right? Because it's going to probably be a little wet, and it doesn't have that sort of give that you would expect from dirt. Rubber obviously is going to be more bouncy and have super high friction, that kind of stuff. And you just keep going into like that feels about right, which is what I was saying before with when I play against people, it's kind of unfair because I've got like 100 hours of me throwing the ball until I went, yeah, that feels good. That feels right. And me dialing the variables specifically to suit me, is what it feels like.
It's crazy that you brought this up, and shame on me for not even noticing this. But I'm kind of a believer when you do things right, it's not noticeable to the consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't even fully take in how much different the bounce and the roll was on the
It
different
all feels
environment.
natural.
because you don't even, because it feels so natural. You don't register that it's different, or I don't know. That's amazing. I didn't even realize.
Yeah,
I
that's
spent a
the
lot
hope.
of time in this.
That's the hope. It's like how they say, if you have a good waiter, then you don't even notice them because they're just coming in and filling your glass before you even realize that you need it filled. That's kind of the same mentality. It's like, as long as what's there works well, people generally won't notice what isn't there. Like you can omit certain things, even like, for example, characters that don't look like potatoes. And people aren't going to go, man, where is that? This game is trash. How come there's no like character customization? Because they're just focused on the fun experience that the game is providing.
Or when
And in
Hopefully.
defense of that, and to back it up, it's still holding a strong rating on the store with a 4.9. So
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you guys had the 5.0 for quite a bit.
but the one is only it's a 4 instead of a
Yeah.
5. So it's
Oh,
not
it broke
like
my heart too, because I'm
I
pretty sure
believe
I looked at the review, the 1 4-star, and the one complaint that I think they knocked the star off for was a matter of they said the microphone wasn't working in game, which I can almost guarantee was when they launched it. They said, no, you don't have permission to record my microphone, because I don't like the way that's worded. I feel like that's very
The first
deceptive
couple
to
times
say record it.
like you're listening.
Yes.
Yeah, I get it. But I always
Yeah,
click
like
yes.
like people would think, especially when you're dealing, let's be real, with like a Facebook product on the Quest. A lot of people will go, "Oh, I don't want them recording anything and storing that." A lot of people are very, you know, I don't know, they've got a bad vibe about it.
Yeah,
Let's say.
privacy
So
sensitive is what we'll say.
Yeah.
sure, absolutely, that's a good way to say it. So I could see someone seeing that, saying, "Oh, can we record you?" and them going, "No, no, thank you." And then they go in the game and it can't listen to your microphone because you said no. So then it's not going to work. So now in the game, it'll tell you if you go in there and you haven't given the app permission. It'll let you know. It'll say, hey, other people can't hear you. So if you want them to, make sure you give the app permission.
Yeah, no, you make a great point about the wording, because I'm thinking back to when I first got my headset, and it was a little bit of that, why do they need to record me? And then it kind of clicked, oh, it's just about in-game mic. But I could, I'm pretty technologically literate, so I could imagine somebody,
No,
a little.
it's the way it's worded is pretty blunt.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say
Yeah, it's not great.
worded
Do you
like,
give
hey, in
Bocce
order
time
to
to
use
record your
the
audio?
in-game mic, you need to give permission for us to
Yeah.
allow access to the mic. It could
Yeah.
be something, but they've just got it like
Record audio.
allow them to
Yeah,
record
if
your
it just said,
video,
hey, can
allow
this
audio.
listen to your microphone? People might be a little more
Yeah.
receptive to it. But when it says, I think the record, like you said, you're technologically literate. I made the game, and even when I saw it the first time, I was like, I don't like that. I don't like the way that's saying that. So
Yeah.
I could totally see somebody else not being about it.
Well, maybe they'll change it to a 5-star, because in theory, no game they ever play that is multiplayer, they're going to give a 5-star to, because they're all going to come up with the same exact message.
Well, even then,
Yeah, that's my hope. They'll jump in there and see this new message and go, oh, let me turn that on, and then it'll work for them. They'll go back and go, okay, let me give them that 5th-star.
But it's still, I mean, my 4.9 is absolutely amazing in the big sea of games that's available out there. So I mean, that's and listen, that's the reason why, and it wasn't even
Yeah.
like a performance, or the game glitched, or
And
was janky, or
what I'll also say
Yeah.
to that dude is, if he's having mic troubles with his friend that he's friends with, just send him a party invite.
yeah, you could do that too.
That's just me.
Yeah, I
used
didn't
to
know that
play
was a
party
thing
chat.
until
Oh,
today.
Party
Somebody just
chat's the-
mentioned it.
I think we're like an outlier. I thought everybody would do this, but me and
Been
Stratus
doing
over
that since
here,
day one.
yeah, we like only play in party chat besides Pop 1, but like we use party chat every single game. We never use the in-game mics for any game.
Well, and truthfully, the reason why is because we found out real quick that, with the exception of
a couple
a
games,
couple of games, the in-game mic quality isn't really great.
it's almost like Oculus nerfs it down a little bit and pumps up the.
I will say
party chat.
Bocce's in-game mic works fine.
Yeah, and you have it seemed, because we were using it last night, the in-game mic, it seemed like it was a little distance orientated. So as people move away from you, their audio got quieter. At least it seemed that way.
Yeah, it works that way currently. I'm actually going to add an option so that people can disable that if they prefer not to have it. So there'll be like a little checkbox that says proximity based, because for some people, I've noticed on the Quest specifically that people do seem to get a bit quieter than I intend for them to when they're at that distance. Because I guess because you don't have like headphones on, it's most people it's just the speakers coming out of the headset. So it's maybe not as loud as it is on, for example, a PC VR headset. Like I play with a Vive and it's got, the headphones right next to my ears. So it's a non-issue for me. But on the Quest, I do notice it's a bit lower. So I'm going to give people the option to disable that if they want to.
That's beautiful. I think
Yeah,
option
I'm one
is
of those guys that constantly presses the button to jump from end to end to end to end.
Mhm.
yeah.
Just to, I like watching the shots come in, and then I like going back to see the person. I'm weird, so that's actually huge for me.
Yeah, and I think like everything, give people the option. So some people will prefer it on, some people
There's
won't.
a ton of options in this game.
Yeah.
When you really look at the full spread, it's like
You can't
there's
go wrong
almost
with options. No one's ever
no,
complained that there's too many options.
too many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm that guy too. I think because if you don't, somebody's going to leave a 4-star or 3-star because they couldn't do something,
Mhm.
so it's always give the options.
No, very user friendly. And promise me you'll keep the potato head option. Though.
Oh, it'll definitely be an option. You'll be able to stick with the classic, the OG potato.
I like that guy.
So, I don't want to know like sales or anything like that, but just in terms of like your active users who are consistently on the game as a developer, are you able to see at all like, I guess percentages of
People
player base
playing.
per headset? Like, how many people playing are on Quest versus, the Vive type deal?
Yeah, I can get that information, and I actually can see average people, like as people are playing in real time, because the service I use for the multiplayer is a third party service called Photon, and they have pretty in depth tracking of that kind of stuff where I can see, for example, somebody was searching for a game at this point. Not necessarily that someone entered a search, but it'll say, there's one person online right now, which means they're playing against the bot probably, or they're in queue for a quick match, that kind of thing. And the numbers have been pretty decent. It's probably about 50 people playing every day. Usually, it's not uncommon to see 2 or 3 lobbies going at a time, but they're almost always private match. The quick match is hard to come by currently, which is why, again, I would advise everyone who wants to play to jump into the Discord and use the looking for group chat. But it does work. It will occasionally get you somebody, and there's just most people are playing in the party games right now, or the private matches.
Yeah, it seems to be our.
Yeah, we usually set up a private room.
Yeah,
Have you thought of? I hate asking developers this because you guys put in so much work. You produce a game, you release it, and then it's right away to updates, and then you get people like us going, "Hey, have you ever thought of adding?" It's like I'm sure you have thought of it. You just have 1,000 things on your plate. But are you looking to add any sort of like server list or anything like that as a different find a match option besides just the quick match? So that way maybe people could see like the list of games available or something like that.
Not currently. I may end up adding something like a server browser. Right now, I don't think it would necessarily help potentially. Because I think if you're going to pick one specifically, it's going to be because it's your friends. And if that's the case, then you probably already have just a name you could put in there. And otherwise, if you're in a quick match, that's just a first in, first out sort of queue. There's not like skill based matchmaking or anything like that at this point. So if there's a match available, you're going to get put into it right away if you do the quick match. And if there isn't, then a server browser wouldn't really help in that sense anyway. But down the line, it's not something I would rule out. I could definitely see that being useful, especially I'd like to add like match options so that you can have, for example, you can disable the minimum throw distance, that kind of thing, or set up different rules. Like maybe you get additional points for the ball being in contact with the pallino, that sort of thing. So people might be able to set up lobby options, and then people could choose the lobby they want to join based off what those settings are. If you could see that in there, I haven't like fully decided on anything like that yet, but I do like options. So something like that does seem like it would be useful.
Oh my god, that would be great for community events too. Like this week, this is the special aspect of it too. Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
all 200% power, like everyone's forced into that kind of thing. That could be
do
pretty
it.
interesting.
30% power, and you just see people overhand chucking that thing as hard as they can.
Just throwing their arms out completely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's freaking. I gotta ask, how big is the team that worked on this?
Is it one?
Is it a team of one?
Yeah, it's just me.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
It has that magic to it of that one person team.
Smaller teams seem to put out a much better quality product than some of the larger teams.
Specifically in VR right now, I'll say.
Sometimes, yeah. You just get laser focused. If you know what you want to do and you don't have to design by committee, you can just go in there and go at it with a scalpel exactly the way you want it. And then ideally, if you're a good developer, in my opinion, you put it out to the community, you listen to feedback, and you refine things as necessary, right? You don't need someone on the team to tell you that something's bad. Often, if anything, the people working on the game are the worst at knowing that, because you just get used to things, like you start doing something a certain way and you go, oh, I know how this works, this is fine, and then you put it out to someone, they go, this is trash, like I have this is this doesn't work at all, or this is super unintuitive, and then you go, oh, I need to make some changes, so it's the community is really the best focusing lens, I think, for trying to get something to a point where it's going to be universally enjoyable.
That's freaking fantastic.
Great mentality. And yeah, it's just something that we've observed. We've interviewed a lot of teams, a lot of studios, a lot of developers at this point, and it's like, oh, man, all of our, not all, but a vast majority of our favorite VR games are those under 10 people, specifically like around 5 people. Seems
5
to be
to
like,
7.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, for you to pump this out with one person is
pretty ridiculous.
That's really impressive. I mean,
pretty ridiculous.
I'm dying to ask is, I mean, you said you spent a lot of time on the physics aspect alone, but I mean, what was the total development time of this game from, you got the inspiration, you got the idea in your head to you're releasing it on Steam and App Lab and all that?
It really wasn't that long. It was about 20 weeks, 4.5 months or so. And it was because, to be fair, like I said, I didn't invent Bocce, right? So it's a lot of it is, one, I played Walkabout, so I effectively just copied, if I'm being honest, I copied their multiplayer system with the private match and the quick match. And then I played that Sports Champions game I talked about earlier with the various courts and things that it had. So I was like, oh, I've got these 2 incredible games that already came before me that I can just say, let me take the best of this one. Let me take the best of this one. Let me put it together the best I know how. And there wasn't really much guesswork involved, right? It was pretty much just, all right, let's get the throwing to feel as good as I can get it. Let's get the physics to feel as good as I can get it. Take these 2 things that I know are amazing and enjoyable, put them together. And then, I mean, like you said, the assets, most of the visual assets in the game, I didn't make myself. I mean, there's plenty of them that I did, but at least 90% of them are from an asset pack, the same ones you've seen in Walkabout. So that stuff came together pretty quickly. It was just a matter of get it in there, get it refined, test it, make it fun. And also, it's not that I was against putting more time into it potentially, but with a game like Bocce, it's very hard to sell somebody on Bocce, even through videos, right? No, like, especially many people don't even know what it is. So it's one of those things where in my mind, I was like, well, I want this game just for me and my friends to play it. Like, that'll be fun. But it would also be great if other people enjoy it. But if they don't, because nobody knows what Bocce is, and it's going to be really hard to sell them on it, I don't want to spend a year and a half trying to make this the best Bocce experience of all time, and then nobody buys it, and then I have to go get a normal job. So I tried to keep the scope pretty reasonable. That's why there weren't like character customization options from the beginning, because I was like, that's one of those things you could scrap it. If this game comes out and it sells 4 copies, then so be it. No one's going to complain about potato people. But if it does well, then I'll add it in a future update, So it's like you have to be, especially in VR, you have to be very pragmatic about how you allot your time and be very practical about it. And that seemed like enough time to get it to be fun and enjoyable. And then if it does well, which it seems to be doing, then I'm going to dive in and try to make it as big a success as I possibly can.
No,
I'm in awe over the 4.5 months.
Yeah,
20
weeks. What?
We have never spoken to a developer that has been able to put out a finished product in that amount of time, I don't think.
Well, and what also a good finished product. It's not like you just, you made a Unity cube.
I'll take
it.
We haven't spoken to anybody that's put out a shitty product in 4.5 months.
That's true. And I mean, I think you got the right concept down of like, look, what's the most important aspect? I need a place to play on, and the physics need to be good. Once that, then I'll, add some good lively textures, and we can do the rest after it gains some momentum. But let's see if people like the concept. And oh man, I think that was a really good way to roll with it. No pun intended, because I mean, you get the idea. People are going to like the concept, and I called it like such a beautiful shell, and it's not because it's barren and there's things missing. It's just because like, oh my God, there's so much potential with that. But you could have spent 2 years and put it out, and nobody likes it, and then that's 2 years gone. But you built the shell. You said, here's what's most important. Let's put it out, and the community's spoken, I guess.
I think if anybody plays it, they'll like it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have it as a must own for sure. For
Yeah, what is it? $7.99.
$8.99. Yeah, but
$8.99.
that's how I
Sorry.
feel about it. How could you not like it? And again, I don't think that's like arrogance on my part. It's just
Not at all.
bocce, right? Bocce is just fun. So it's like as long I feel like I did it well enough that, like you said, you don't even notice the physics things because it feels so natural. Hopefully, so if you like bocce, if you think bocce is a fun concept, you'll like the game. Is my mindset. As long as there's no bugs, which I'm not really familiar with any, nobody's been reporting them, then it's just bocce. Like, why would you not like bocce?
I'll even say you don't even need to have priorly liked bocce to go in, and
Mm-mm.
if you have a
I
friend,
hardly went in with any bocce experience.
yeah, I played it in gym class in like third or
I
fourth
don't
grade.
remember ever playing it in my whole life. I'm maybe, but I don't have a memory of playing it.
I get the same reaction, telling people about this than when I tell them like, "Hey, one of the best games that you can play in VR is mini golf." They go, "Are you sure?" And then you put
Mind
them in, and
blowing,
they
right?
understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest sell with this is like, look, whether or not you've played bocce or not, I promise you're gonna have a good time with a friend. Just go try it, and you'll understand. And I guarantee, if you try it with a friend, you're gonna have a good time.
And we haven't found any bugs either.
No,
Not even make believe flying ones.
no, you've had the ball drop backwards when you're trying to roll, but that's because of your
That's my
controller.
right controller issue.
That's not an in-game
Yeah.
issue. That's a hardware.
Or you unclick the button.
Yeah. Oh, you
you
release
know,
the grip. But
on your
even then,
back
you
throw.
have different, grip
Change it
control
from
buttons.
grip to
Yeah.
throw to the trigger button to
Mhm.
throw. Smooth.
Well, it's such a simple game. I mean, it really is effectively one mechanic, right? It's just throw it and roll it. So it's like that's why it didn't take such an extremely long length of time to develop it, because it's really just get that feeling good, and then the rest. I mean, obviously there's other stuff that most people won't even think about, the amount of work that goes into setting up like a UI or networking in general, that sort of thing. But it's not so complex that it's like overwhelming for one person to do, right? It is a very simple game. So that's why I can say, you know what, let me throw in all the options I can think of and do all this, because it's really not that much extra work for something that at its core is so simple. It just has to be fun.
Well, you can give yourself some credit too, because we as humans, we're often like, we overcomplicate, we're perfectionists, we self defeat. So I could totally see somebody in a one man team being like,
It's not ready yet.
Exactly. Let me make sure the character.
One more month.
Let me do this. We're in a lot of podcast groups, and we hear that a lot from podcasters of like, they'll get like 30 episodes in ready to record, and then there's like still always one more thing that's postponing it. And sometimes you just have to put it out there and grow as you go. And so you got to give yourself some credit too, that you had the right mentality on your own. I don't think you fell into the same pitfalls that honestly there's probably a lot of people in right now. So props to you as well.
I'll take some credit for that. I do feel like I have a pretty good mindset for that sort of thing. I've always been very analytical about game, like long before I got into game development. I've always sort of nitpicked at the various aspects of things and see how developers do things, and focus on what I think stands out for the games that I'm playing, like what it is that makes them fun, like what at the core of them makes it an enjoyable experience. So I feel like I've got a pretty decent lock in on that. But also, like I said, I made my previous game, Vengeful Rights, over 3.5 years. That was in early access for the bulk of that. So I had a lot of feedback from the community, and I've learned a lot about what people find important, and also just how easy it is as a developer to overestimate like how straightforward something might be. Like I said, you could go, "Oh, this works," and it feels great to me because I know exactly the inner workings of it. I know the code that's making it work. So of course it's doing what it's supposed to do because I told it to do that. But then when somebody else gets it, they go, "No, this is terrible." So I understand that it's very important to get that third person perspective and try to refine things through that lens, and not give yourself such an incredibly huge to-do list that becomes insurmountable, right? You stick to the core. Because I've seen so many games, not even VR, but like MMOs, for example, like indie MMOs throughout the years, that would come out and they go, "Oh, we're adding all this content and we're putting all this in." And it's like, yeah, but the core is busted. It's broken. Like, you need to get that functional, and then people will keep playing that over time, and then you add that other stuff in. You don't want to try to come at it with everything all at once, but none of it is up to par. So that's a great way to destroy yourself from the beginning, and then also put a tremendous amount of pressure on yourself. If you're like, "Hey, I've got 25 systems and all of these various things I need to get in here. Oh, and time's ticking down. Oh, and I'm one person." So it's I think it's very important. Reasonable scope is maybe the most important thing for an indie developer to keep in mind, because feature creep is very real, and you'll never finish a game. A game is never totally done. You just decide to stop working on it. Basically, there's always more you can do.
Well, I mean, it's going to go in the history books. I mean, it's a great game now, but we all remember the release. Let's remember No Man's Sky. That's like the
Yeah,
opposite. I mean, that's exactly what you're describing of like so much promises, and sometimes you just have to.
Biting off more than you can realistically.
Yeah, and the earlier
yeah,
you can start to get really good constructive feedback, the earlier you can stop yourself from going down a bad path of development or ideas, or you know, you can lose a lot of time just trying to, like you said, get it perfect for yourself, but it's not actually perfect.
yeah.
So
Things get
something.
scrapped all the time. You try it out, you prototype it, and you go, "This is trash." Like on paper, maybe it sounded amazing, and then you actually do it, and you go, "This is terrible," and it's not worth putting any more time into. You have to, like you said, catching it early is important.
I think Anthony should be giving lectures and classes to no, in all seriousness, on future developers, on time management, the business and mental process that you really got to do to come out with a finished product, because the game plan works and it's a proven method, obviously. So
Well, and I think he's going to be a good App Lab success story because let's be real. Obviously, you want to be on the official store. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
geez, even I wish our podcast was on the official store. Everybody wants to be on the official store.
Oh yeah.
But, even just being on App Lab, it's not like you just, shit, you accepted defeat and it is what it is. Like, all right, let's push the community aspect. Let's get people on the Discord. Let's grow as we can. And you're becoming a good example of, what can happen through App Lab. And you had referenced earlier, get a real job. So I got to ask, are you doing VR development full time right now, or do you have,
I am.
real
Yeah.
life jobs? Ooh,
No,
that's
this is it.
exciting
That's
to
part of
hear.
the reason I could pump this out in four and a
And
half
we,
months, because it had all my time. Yeah, that's 4.5 months of 16-hour days primarily. Because I mean, you could ask any indie, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way, even without developing a game, but working on your podcast and things. It consumes you, right? When you have a creative outlet, you want to do it all the time. Like there are times I'll go to play games and I'll go, I should be working on my game. And also I'd rather be working on my game. So it's like, why wouldn't I put all of my time into it? You have to limit yourself, right? Because you will get burned out. So it's important sometimes you go, you know what, I don't feel like it today. I'll take the day off. But more often than not, if you can get in there, it's going to benefit you and the game and the community. So why
yeah,
wouldn't you?
I've learned when inspiration hits, just drop everything. This is just me personally. When I feel that idea and the inspiration hits, I have to do
Yeah.
it then and there. Otherwise,
Hmm.
the inspiration might not be there in 8 hours, and then it's not the same quality. And so, yeah, absolutely, having a creative passion, it's a catch-22. It's exciting, and it can also drive yourself crazy, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's awesome. And have you been full time since your last VR game, or is that a little bit more recent?
No, the whole time. I've been very fortunate with that. With Vengeful Rights, I had some savings, and I decided to quit my other job. I was just working as a valet at a club, and I was like, I love video games. I want to make video games. I've dabbled in sort of all of the various aspects of making games aside from writing code. I mean, I had done like some HTML, PHP kind of stuff for web design, but not actually writing the code. But I was familiar with Photoshop and how to edit sound effects and do animations and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, all right, now seems like the time. At the time, I was 29, and I said, let's start thinking about an actual career, something I want to do professionally that'll actually make me happy. That isn't just a job. So I took a year off, or I quit my job, and I said I'm going to give this a go for a year, and then see how it goes. And I released Vengeful Rights into early access a year later, and it did well enough that it could pay my bills. And I was like, well, this is it now. I'm gonna keep doing this. And I've been very fortunate so far that it continued to do that up until the point that I could make Bocce Time and release that. Now together, Vengeful Rights and Bocce Time are, helping me be pretty comfortable while I focus on what I love doing. So I can't ask for more than that.
That's freaking awesome.
when the results are showing, and I love nothing more than when a great game that's polished, it's good, continues to just get better.
Hmm.
Whether it be something added or
And it,
little enhancements, but it's always
Mm-hmm.
exciting.
it brings real joy to my heart hearing developers go full time too, because
Hmm.
it proves that the industry is capable of that. If
It can be done. You just got to be willing to
to take the chance, like you
take the
said, you had
chance
to,
and put in the time and effort and the actual work.
yeah, nothing
Yeah,
Nothing's
comes.
you have
gonna
to be
yeah, nothing's gonna be handed.
you have to be very passionate. You can't be a weekend warrior and
Oh,
go full time with it. You have to be like, this is going to consume me basically. And I'm okay with that. I mean, in fact, I'm happy about it. Like at least initially, right? You're going to have to grind.
yeah, we referenced off air before that this is usually your sleep time, and it's about 12 p.m. Eastern. So I mean, I'll let people do the math. Your countless hour sleepless nights, we'll say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So just out of curiosity, in case anybody's heard your previous game referenced a bunch, and they're going VR RPG, is this still existing? Is it available on the Quest? Is it on just PC VR? What's the deal with that? In case anybody's curious about it.
It's a PC VR game only. It's not available on the Quest. You can pick it up on Steam. It's also up on the Oculus Store, and soon when it launches the Pimax Store, it'll be up on that as well. And it's it's a Zelda like VR RPG with I think it's the longest VR RPG on PC right now. It takes most people about 16 hours to do a playthrough, and made
Damn.
for VR. Bunch of magic and puzzles. It was a super ambitious project, but like I said, I work 16-hour days, so it came out all right.
No, that's freaking awesome. And I always love to see developers go from one genre all the way to a different from VR RPG to bocce. It's quite
Yeah,
the jump.
yeah. And before that, it was a VR escape room game. That was what I started with. I was like, oh, I'll make two or three of these, and I'll get used to making games. And then I started prototyping the combat for Vengeful Rights, and I was like, oh no, I'm just doing this now. This is the this is the game. This is way more fun.
So, being as you like to burn the 16-hour workday, I'm going to ask the most just rottenest question right now. But do
Mhm.
you have in the back of your mind future games that you want to take on?
Oh, for sure. There's always multiple game ideas where it's like, oh, this would be really cool. I've got three or four that I would love to make, depending. Some of them depend on how successful Bocce Time would be. Because, for example, if Bocce Time does get on the main Oculus store, my understanding, and this is total speculation, is that I would then have an in where I could potentially pitch a game to them and say, "Hey, would it be cool if I made this? Would that be something that you guys would be interested in?" And that would open the floodgates for making future multiplayer games, for example, that require a community. Because Bocce Time, like Walkabout, you could just play with your friends whenever you want, right? It doesn't require there to be 100 people online at any given time to get into a competitive match. But there are games like that that I would like to make that you pretty much have to know that you can get an install base for, and I would love to make that or non VR. I have other non VR game ideas I'd also like to make, but VR is just so cool. Like, why would you not want to stick with VR if you can?
Yeah, selfishly, for my own enjoyment, I'd like to see you as a developer stay in VR.
I could see a big studio
Yeah.
trying to swoop them up though too. I mean, if I were a AAA studio and I was like, huh,
I'd be okay with that.
send this guy a check with a bunch of zeros because he's doing shit in 4.5 months that we're paying 52 people to not do. So something's wrong here.
Yeah.
Put
No,
him
I
in
mean,
charge.
definitely, Anthony, you're an incredibly talented developer. I mean,
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be neat to watch this all grow because sooner or later, I mean, the workload's not going to constitute one person. It just won't be able to. So it's going to be neat to see how you put together a team of people.
well, I also think it's only uphill from here. I think if the game were to have died post release, I think it would have died by now. If that makes sense, it probably would have seen like a spike for a week or two and then really die,
Should be downhill.
downhill. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, would have really nosedived. But
Now the struggle really begins.
yeah, but I mean, you've done a great job with the community aspect, and I've only continued to see the momentum go up. So I don't think it's unless you just suddenly stop communicating with everybody,
Dude, anybody you
delete your
bring it up to is if they played it, they're excited.
yeah. So I think man, the sky's the limit with this one. Um, I know
Yeah, I
this
hope
is
so.
usually the time that you go to bed, so definitely feel a little bad, stealing an hour of your time. But something I gotta ask before we go, I'd love to ask everybody is, what was your first VR experience out of curiosity?
Um, I mean, I got a Vive day one, so it was probably the tutorial that came with that, where you just shoot balloons in the this big open app. But I played everything that was available as soon as it came out, like Vanishing Realms and Space Pirate Trainer, and pretty much anything that was there. I played. I did some streaming for a bit for like 6 months. I was a streamer on Twitch before I got sort of burnt out on the lack of games and was like, I'm just gonna make my own. Like, that's kind of how it goes.
So in theory, from valet to just full time game developer,
Yeah,
shortening the
if you
whole life story there, but
yeah, but it's
that's
pretty accurate. I mean, I feel like if you've got passion and discipline where you can keep yourself motivated, which for me is, I'm fortunate that's not a problem because I love pretty much every aspect of making games, so I want to do it. But if you can keep yourself motivated and disciplined and reasonable, then I hope everyone tries to do something like that. I wish everybody made games because I think it's just such a joyous process, like to have that creative outlet and then ideally put it out there and have other people enjoy it and make their own memories with it is incredible. Like, how could you ask for more than that?
well, one thing for sure, someone's definitely going to hear this and it might ignite a little bit of that passion they didn't know they had by hearing the fact that you were able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about
Yeah.
talking to VR developers is the passion they bring to the table is not it's not fraudulent. It's not made up. They're not pretending or trying to be passionate. It's like you hear it, the stories, the where I came, some of the backgrounds we talked to of people who have given up to me like inconceivable careers that I would ever
Yeah,
quit.
Hollywood careers
Mhm.
Yeah, like got a taste of Hollywood and I'm in production. Nope, I gave it all up and I'm working
in VR.
in VR, which is a scary realm in its sense that it's still new. So I mean, it's
There's no
incredible.
guarantees, but
No,
it's just such it's so damn cool. Like, why would how could you not want to? If you could take a shot, now's the time. Or at the early stages, especially. It's like if you can establish yourself early, you should hopefully be in pretty good shape going forward.
nope, totally agree with that.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think this is going to be the last time we hear from Anthony. As
You
Deep Dive
think?
Interactive.
No.
Either with Bocce Time, future projects. I don't think Bocce Time's going anywhere. I think it's going to grow so much. So definitely to any of our listeners, if you want to follow the development of Bocce Time, you want to go give Anthony some social media love. We'll post the Twitter link and the Discord link in our show notes, our episode description. But you can find him on Twitter at Deep Dive Interactive. And then, he mentioned his Discord links on there as well, but we'll throw in the show notes as well.
Sure, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Perfect. And before we let you go, Stratus, is there anything else you wanted to ask for Anthony?
No, I'm grateful for the hour we've gotten to spend with him.
Yeah, again,
And earlier butt whooping we took.
yeah, I don't think this is the last we'll hear from him. Like I said,
No, not at all.
games on
No, just
App
play
Lab, it's killing it, getting more popular. You're already a full-time developer. The sky's the limit with you, I think.
Love to see it on the store.
Yeah, it's well deserved.
Same.
Of the multiplayer VR sport games, this game is one of the ones like Walkabout that just it has that it feel.
Yeah, you feel the vibe pretty instantly.
Yeah, the environment, everything. It's not magic, but it has that it feel. It's like, all right, this works.
Thank you.
Perfect. So anything else you want to say for our listeners before we wrap this baby up?
No, nothing really comes to mind. Just, check out the game, tell your friends. If you have it, consider leaving a review, rating it, or posting about it somewhere. That's huge, right? As a grassroots community, like you guys said, we're trying to get things up. I think that's one of the best things about the game is that if somebody tries it and they enjoy it, hopefully they'll get some friends to come play it with them, and then those friends will come get some friends to play with them, and it'll be, try to do a viral marketing thing effectively through fun. And I mean, I'm kind of banking on that. So by
The
all
game makes
means.
you want to tell your friends. I can't explain it. It's like you finish it and you're like, let me go tell this person I know who has a headset. You got to try Bocce.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, for $9, take a shot. Like, what have you got to lose?
yeah, that's something so underrated
It's
about
like a
VR
large
games.
coffee at Starbucks, isn't it?
Yeah, even even the new Walkabout course, it's $3.
Yeah.
$3. Come on.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
No, VR,
yeah, I
VR's
own
got
all
the
of it,
best price
all
point.
their DLC.
worth. Yeah, it's hard not to.
You want to buy it
Definitely
just to
worth the
support
price,
them,
though.
just to support it. Even if you don't like play it that much, even if you're not going to play those courts that often, you go, yeah, these guys have earned it. I've gotten my time's worth out of the game. I'll give them the $3. I want them to keep going.
Yeah, and it comes out, it's $3. It's like it'd be one thing if it was like $8, $9 per course, but
I was actually always anticipating it would be, and I wasn't going to complain about
yeah,
it.
but $3, you want to support them. So actually, I'm sorry because we're just wrapping up. But one thing I forgot to ask right before we go is you mentioned that you're working on a new park and stuff. Is there anything that you
Mhm.
can say about that yet, or is it still too early to release any details?
No, I'm super transparent. It's fine. I'm working on a new park. It's kind of a beach vibe at sunset. It'll be included with the game. It's not DLC or anything, but I do plan hopefully the game continues to do well and grow to do DLC parks after that. I plan to basically follow the same blueprint that Walkabout's done because I feel like they've crushed it and it makes sense. So I'll give you another park with 6 more courts, although the standard court will be one of those because I think that should always be there. And yeah, going forward, it's just imagination's the limit. Hopefully people in the community will have ideas for cool courts. I'll throw that in there and then make some DLC if the community can support it.
Oh, I don't know why I'm so freaking excited for a beach one. There's so much potential with environment for that.
Hey, I'll support it as soon as I see one available.
Yeah, so like we said,
I appreciate that.
$9. The price point of VR games are really hard to beat. So check out Bocce Time on App Lab. We'll post the store link in our show notes as well because unfortunately you won't see it on the store page organically unless you type it in character for character direct. So you can either visit.
They've gotten better with that. You can just type like bocce and it'll actually find. In fact, I'd recommend just typing bocce because if you throw time in there, there's 100 other games that have time in the title or some loose relationship to time that it'll put in front of it. So bocce is your best bet.
Well, thank you for dropping that little hint. I haven't been searching App Lab games for months now because we're so used to it. That's good to know that they refined the searching a little bit.
Yeah,
so
I
type in
appreciate
bocce
that.
into the store or visit the show notes. Go check out Anthony on Twitter at Deep Dive Interactive. Definitely go join his Discord. Check out those weekly tournaments and
start playing bocce.
Yep, go get whooped by Anthony and Shoes.
Yeah, Shoes is a monster.
All right, have a great day, guys.